go. Here we go. Welcome back to JB Reviews. I'm going to do a drive video with the new Ford Expedition and Chevy Tahoe. Now these are the highest trim levels from these two models. So it's really windy today. That's going to be a really good test as well to see how they handle and what the MPG is and acceleration. Let's get into it. Special shout out to Jerry Seiner Chevrolet here in Salt Lake City and Larry H. Miller Super Ford in Salt Lake City. They did allow me to do this test and these trucks are available for sale. Let's drive the Chevy first. We just left the dealership. We're gonna go ahead and head on the highway, but before we get down the road, I am gonna do a 0 to 60 test. Now I wonder, does this have stop start? It does have stop start. I was wondering if it did or not. It is warmed up. That's one thing I like about V8s. They do tend to warm up pretty quickly. And on this test, I am gonna try to show you guys, you know, obviously 0 to 60, some comfort, and I have a decibel reader too, so I can kind of give you guys an idea of how loud these SUVs are on the interior. Now, the good thing about the high country is you get the 6.2 liter V8 standard, 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque, and it is mated to a 10-speed transmission. And if that's not up your alley, if you want something with better fuel economy because you do like a lot of highway driving, you can get the 3-liter diesel, which I would definitely go that route because you're gonna get easily 22, 23 miles a gallon easily, and you can get upwards of 27 miles to the gallon with that powertrain. Here we go.
30. 60.
Yeah, this is definitely quick on its feet. Now obviously that Ford has that, you know, EcoBoost, which is a turbocharged V6, and I think everyone knows this, but that's a hard engine to beat when it comes down to performance. I do like the overall like acceleration too. That's something that I've actually come to enjoy about V8s, is you have that low end torque. With V6s, you can feel that dead spot when you drive them, and you don't really feel that with this. I feel like it's just very well mannered versus the V6s. And for me personally, I think a lot of people are gonna have a learning curve learning how to drive them too. So I'm gonna jump back on the highway in a different direction here. Traffic is gonna probably start picking up, so I want to try to avoid that. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the fit and finish in this interior. One thing you will learn to love about the Chevy Tahoe is really the overall fit and finish. Like when you jump inside of any Chevy product, the very first thing you will see is how easy and simple it is to learn their infotainment system. And I love their gauge cluster too. The overall layout is clean and easy to read. You have buttons on this side and they're placed in the right spots too. I think that's what Chevy does well. And the steering feel on this Tahoe is really good. Like it's very smooth and very precise too. It's not too tight, but I think one thing I don't like about the Chevy is how thin the steering wheel is. It is a little thin, but that might be better for females. But again, everything is just laid out well. The fit and finish of the wood trim pieces right here, it look nice. You have leather and stitch, you know, throughout. But let's see how loud this interior is at about, you know, 65 miles an hour. About 63, 64. By the window. 65, 66. Wow. Anywhere between 60 and 61 out back. That's probably the quietest I've seen out of anything I've ever tested. It's really good. Now let's talk about that 0 to 60. 8.69 0 to 60 is really good for this big old SUV. So I think that's one thing I like about the V8s, as I said earlier, is that it does accelerate fast. But I think the biggest benefit of this is that you don't have a turbocharger, and if you don't know how to drive a turbocharger, you're gonna get worse fuel economy. And I think you're gonna see that probably in this test, especially when you're doing acceleration like I just did. That's not good for turbocharged engines. Like, it just sucks the fuel. And sometimes it's better to run premium fuel. Now this is kind of required to run premium. So if you're gonna get the 6.2, which is this high country, it's the only engine available, gas engine that is, you have to run premium. But there is another option that Ford can't compete with. This also has a diesel option, and if I were getting a Tahoe, it would 100% be the diesel. Now both of these SUVs have the panoramic sunroof, and I do like the mirrors on this Tahoe. They do sit nice and high, and I feel like I have good visibility. If I look back, the third row seat is up. You can see that the headrests do tilt down, which is nice. And I can pretty much see out back of the window. Now, if there's people sitting back there, you're gonna lose all that visibility. So let me show you guys something right here. Now, for any reason you really need to see out the back and you just can't see, you do have the 360 camera. Now, I don't recommend you use it this way, but you do have this in the event that, you know, you can't see out the back, or you don't know if someone's in your blind spot by using the mirrors. But like I said, the mirrors are pretty nice, but you can see out the back if you'd like. Of course, you can see out the front, all that good stuff. We're at the midpoint right now. We're at 16.2, and now we're gonna head the opposite direction. So that's not bad. Now, this does not have like the deactivation for the cylinders. Like in the past, they had it to where you can run on 4 cylinders if you're just cruising on the highway, but they no longer have that system, which is a good thing because it's been proven to be unreliable. And as I was braking out back, the brakes feel a little touchy, but they're not bad. They're not terrible at all. Like, you'll get used to the brake feel really easily, and you won't even notice the touchiness from them. But they're really good when as soon as you start pressing the brakes, like, it starts to brake for you. So we're gonna get back up to about 75 miles an hour, and I'll go ahead and show you guys. Actually, this four-wheel drive system is showing in auto, so let's go ahead and drop it into two-wheel drive. Now, I know some people are gonna say in the comment section if it's in auto, it's using all-wheel drive, but that is not the case. It's still in two-wheel drive unless the wheels slip. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as the driving modes go, let's see if they have like an eco mode. So they have sport, off-road, tow haul mode, and then normal. So there's no eco mode for this. As far as the wind goes, I do feel a little bit of like push, like we're hitting a headwind right now, but I don't feel like this is all over the road. Like, this is a really well-built SUV. The aerodynamics, you can tell that, you know, it's easy to control. Like, I can drive with just one hand on the steering wheel, and there's not a lot of sway too. Like, I would like to drive one of these back to back with the air suspension. Now, as far as the Expedition goes, I don't know if those have air suspension from the factory, but this does. And that's probably gonna really soften up the ride, and it just makes the SUV more versatile too, personally. So if I were to buy one, or if I'm ordering one, I would definitely get that one option. It's probably expensive, but it's worth it. Well, we should be back here in about 11 minutes. I took another way because traffic's starting to pick up, and these roads are a little bit better. So I'll show you guys where we end off with the MPG. So 20 miles driven, 17.2 at average about 43.3 miles an hour. And it was about a 28-minute trip too, so not bad, not bad. So let's see how the Ford does. We just jumped into the Ford, and something I just noticed, in the Chevy, it allows the ventilated seats to come on as soon as you get in. And this one, you have to do it manually. So just something to consider. I know there's like a little detail, but I do like how as soon as you get into the Chevy, seats are cooled, and maybe there's a way you can set it up in this system too, but we're gonna go ahead and get down the road. Both of the SUVs have the power steering column, which is so nice, and they should work with the seat memories, which just makes, you know, setting up easy when you have multiple people driving the same car. This thing has a lot of power. Has a lot of power. Oh my goodness. I can already tell this is gonna win 0 to 60. Woo! Which we're gonna do right now. Let's go ahead and set up for that, and we'll see how it does. Now, as far as this turbocharged V6 goes, it's gonna have 380 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. That is big numbers. And one thing I like about this engine is how versatile it is. So, because it's a V6, if you're just cruising on the highway, you're gonna get the best fuel economy possible because you're not lugging along 2 more cylinders. Now, apart from that, if you need acceleration, it's turbocharged. So if you need to get over, if you need to pass someone, this is gonna have the power to do that. Made it to a 10-speed transmission, and this had the 373 rear because it has a tow package on it. All right, here we go.
30. 60. Quarter mile.
I don't have words for that. I was expecting this to do about 7.80 to 60. And did you guys see that the Chevy beat the Ford to 30 miles an hour? Again, like I told you, with the V6 turbo, there's a little bit of lag. And that's where that 8-cylinder, it just gets it going a lot quicker, and you can clearly see it. I'm actually really surprised by that test, like very surprised. I was not expecting the Chevy to beat the Ford on 60 miles an hour, but I'm very shocked. I mean, it's not a lot, but it beat it to 30 miles an hour, and at some point with that turbocharged engine, that's where it just shoots off. But we're gonna get back on the highway here, and you know, I gotta tell you, I like lighter interiors personally, and I kind of wish that they both had this, although I don't think that you can get a light interior like this in the Chevy, but I do like this. This interior is just, whoo, it's nice. Brian at the Ford store said that this is like Lincoln leather, and trust me, it feels like it. Now the gaze cluster in the Ford is digital, just like the Chevy was. They both are clean, easy to read, but check out the screen off to the side. Now, I personally like the vertical screens because my Ram had one, and I think they look cool. However, I think the other angle is a little bit better in terms of user-friendly. So there's not a lot of buttons either around this interior like the Chevy. Chevy had buttons all over the place. Like down here, you can see some buttons, but there's not as much in this one as in the Chevy, and I'm assuming that's because everything's going to be built into the screen. So, you know, you have some camera views here, and this is another negative about having the screen this way is everything's a little bit smaller. I think that's the back, right? So you guys can kind of see out back there, and then the climate's down below. But yeah, overall, this is a nice interior. The wood trim is really clean, and I really do like these seats. Now, the brakes in the Ford are touchy. They're definitely a little bit more touchier than the Chevy. And you have to push down a little bit more. But again, when you own something, you just get used to that. And something else I just noticed, this is a very meaty steering wheel. I like this. So for men who have big hands, you might find this a little bit more comfortable compared to the Chevy. But yeah, the fit and finish inside of here, like there's so much leather. Like they killed like 10 cows for this interior, but hey, it was worth it. It was definitely worth it. Now, as far as the Ford goes, you have quite a bit of driving modes. You have tow haul mode, you have mud ruts, you have sand, slippery, normal, eco, and sport. So I'm going to use eco for this because it's only fair, because I might do another test if I get the chance putting this up against the diesel from GM. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm very surprised that manufacturers are turning their backs on diesels, and when you guys see the fuel economy numbers, you will be surprised too. They did have a baby Power Stroke for the F-150s, but I don't think they ever used them for the Expedition. I know they didn't, because I don't recall that me ever reading something like that. But yeah, this is comfortable. The steering feels a little a little vague. Like I wish it was a little bit tighter. The mirrors, let's go ahead and change camera view so you guys can see these mirrors. So these mirrors are a little bit smaller, but they're adequate. I mean, I don't think you would really care that much, you know, which one you would have. Visibility is really good. But yeah, this is definitely probably more comfortable, I think, than the Chevy. I think this is softer. And I just wish that there's a way I could, you know, maybe tighten up the steering wheel. There's not a lot of body roll though. It definitely handles well. Like when I'm turning the steering wheel, yeah, it's definitely very precise. It's just a little vague. Like this feels loose. About 65. $68, 67. $64. So the interior is louder. Well, let me just push that vent down too. Hold on. Yeah, 66, 67. It's a little bit louder inside of it, and I can tell too. It's a little louder. I can hear the wind a little bit more so inside of here, but it's still quiet. Don't get me wrong. It's just a little bit louder. And hey, that's what really don't lie. But yeah, with the wind hitting it, it feels confident going down the road. But we should be at the midpoint in probably another couple miles here, and then I'll show you guys where we are for fuel economy. Here we are. We're at 14 mpg. I really do not remember where we were for the Chevy, so we're gonna have to refer back to the footage here. But the brake feel is definitely a little bit more spongy. You have to press down a little bit longer. It's a little touchy. It's just, I think that's something that Ford can work on. Ford vehicles in general, I've always noticed, like on the Super Duties, very, very touchy brakes. But yeah, let's talk about these seats really quickly. The seats inside of the Ford Expedition are softer. And I think most people are gonna want these over the Chevys, I think personally. I've always noticed that Ford seats are always softer in comparison with just about anybody. And these are definitely softer. I feel more comfortable, I think, too. Not that the Chevy seats weren't comfortable, but these are definitely, I can tell these are softer. Now the cooled seats work about the same. And let's see, let me push the lumbar out a little bit and then push it back in. Oh, wow. Wow. It's still going. Oh yeah, my wife would love this. And I have to give you guys a full disclosure. I've never been a fan of the Ford Expeditions because I've only looked at them from afar. This is my first time actually driving one in years, and I like it. I'm really happy I had a chance to drive one of these. I'm not a huge fan of the styling of them, but if you can overlook the exterior like I have to, because like I'm really liking this. Like the interior is fire. I love this interior. And like I said, these lighter color seats, they always cool better. And I just find this to be a little bit more of a pleasure to drive overall. Now I do wish they came with a 5.0 V8. I mean, come on Ford. I mean, that's an option. So you guys can maybe put that back in this truck here and maybe bring in a diesel. So 16.7, about the same drive time, 19.8 miles. Not bad at all. But here's what you have to consider. It is very, very windy out today. Like, I don't know if you guys can see these trees. Like, it is probably 25-mile-an-hour winds, gust. But the Chevy beat the Ford in fuel economy. Now, if I were to redo this test again without the acceleration, I think that the Ford would win. But where the Ford really comes short is that forced induction. That is always going to kill you on fuel economy. So I do like both of these SUVs, but if I had to pick one, oh man, I don't know which one I would pick. the Ford's faster to 60, right? I felt like the Ford had more comfortable seats, but I think I like the Chevy styling better. And I think overall the fit and finish of the interior just was to my liking, and it might be because I'm biased and I like Chevy. In the comment section, if you had to buy one based off of the information I gave you in this video, which one would you get? I would like to know you guys' thoughts, but I hope you guys liked the video. I definitely probably would pick the Chevy just because I like the styling better on the outside. And one thing about GM is they do have a lot of cool wheel options too. So if you're buying them from the factory, they're just a little bit easier to customize. But hey, I think interior wise, I think the Ford wins that. But I think overall, I like the Chevy styling a little bit better over the Fords. So there you have it. See you guys in the next video.